What's up, guys? Hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about the question, should I join my family business? Um, the question was asked to me by someone who is about to graduate from their undergraduate college experience. So I have a little bit of you know, the way I answer it is somewhat in that lens, but I try to stay general for the most part. So the first reflection I would do um, is on yourself and what you envision for yourself. What is it that you want out of life? And in this case, more focused on your ideal professional life based on your own characteristics and desires. Um, Obviously, this is always a tough question to ask, at a younger age for sure, because it's hard to know what you want. But, I think just in general, um, you know, with family business, I'll say, um, when the next generation comes in, there's an expectation of them taking over. And while many people want to theoretically be, the boss, the reality is being a business owner is not easy. Um, all the success and failure of the company resides on, the boss. You kind of, obviously in conjunction, with your employees and other, management, but a lot of it comes on you to, with regards to business strategy, managing employees, um, you know, just getting the company through recessions, laying off people, like all that. And again, obviously, you grow into that role. You're not going to be tasked with all those when you initially join. But I do think, ask yourself, is being the head of a company, having to deal with the good and bad, problems, is that something I would enjoy? I think certain people have the desire to be that and love and relish that. And certain people don't have that characteristic. And, I don't think there's any shame in saying you don't want to be a number one at a company and, you'd rather be more of an employee um, figure, because I don't think being a boss or an entrepreneur is for everyone. Um, and in that sense, on the flip side, working for someone else, i.e., the corporate route, has a lot less pressure, at least initially, in the sense where you're not going to be tasked with, high level strategy and operations, because hopefully your employer has, their business model down, and you're just kind of there to execute your whatever entry level position. Um, and so I think the one caveat or exception to this that I would give is, if you're in a well structured family business where the expectation is not for you to become the number one, um, then, that is also something to consider, where, maybe in figurehead speak, you are the number one, but you can bring in a COO or something like that to be the real day-to-day person. Um, and then beyond that aspect of the professional aspirations that you have and self-reflecting on that, I think another big thing is, how do you deal with judgment? And, do you care about the opinions of others? Because I think one thing joining family business that you'll always have is, oh, he or she just piggybacked off their parents, hard work. And, people won't give you credit, even though they don't know anything about how hard you're working. They're not going to give you credit. They'll say you're lucky and things like that. And, how do you handle that? Does that bother you? If it doesn't, great. That's awesome. Then, I don't think transitioning to family business will be hard. But if it does, if you're worried about, how much of my success is me versus my family and all that, then I think maybe you want to go the corporate route and build your own successful career that can be quote unquote self-made. Me personally, obviously, for anybody that follows me, I don't believe in believing and worrying about and caring about other people's judgments, but I know that everybody's different, so that's something you have to weigh in. The second reflection I would do is why do you want to join? What is it that you hope out of joining your family business? And maybe you answer some of that in that last reflection. And then also, consider the industry they're in. Like, is this an industry you would have gone to agnostic of having the opportunity to join a family business? I think a lot of people join family business out of duty, guilt, or to keep the business going. They may also face pressure from certain family members. The thing here is you should be wanting to join your family business because you want to. Not because you feel like you need to do it out of pressure, guilt. You may be thinking you're doing something noble that way, but what you'll realize is humans cannot, long term, do something they don't want to do happily. And, if you do something out of guilt or things of that nature, resentment will grow towards your family, towards your parents, or whoever it is that pressured you. I think in a lot of cases people struggle with this because the family business may be economically how the family has, survived or done all the things that they've been able to do in terms of, the house they've grown up in or the trips they've taken. But understand the family business and the family are two separate enterprises. I know that some family business owners will try to, mix those two in, and anytime you go against the family business, you're going against the family. But that's not true. They are different. Because you can still be employed by someone else and be a part of the family. And I think at the end of the day, if you're dealing with things like that, those family dynamics, at the end of the day, your family should be wanting your happiness. And your happiness is irrespective of whether you join the family business or not. And if they are judging you based on whether you join it or not, that's not good family. And I wouldn't necessarily hold their opinions or their judgments very highly if they only are happy with you if you join the family business. The third question I would ask is what does the family business need and what is the long-term strategy? So, as structured right now, what could the family business improve on or do better? So for example, if your family business is very structured and they're doing decently well. And really what's necessary now is to get an experienced manager who knows how to take it from this level to the next level. I'm not sure, and again, I'm answering this for a 22-year-old. I'm not sure that a 22-year-old with very little work experience is the person to take, whatever it is, a $1 million company to 5 million, a $5 million company to 10, whatever it is. And so in that case, it actually might not make sense to join in that sense, if that's what the family needs. And in that case, it may be smarter to, try to learn those skills somewhere else and then come back. I also think talking, with the ownership about what the long-term strategy is. Is it to continue to build and grow, for 10 years and then sell it? Is it to hold it forever? And then, how do the current ownership's long-term visions fit with your long-term strategies? The third reflection I would do is about your professional work experience and the skills you want to gather. So, say you want to become better at digital marketing. Can you objectively get better at digital marketing and learn skills through your family business experience? Or would it be better to learn that somewhere else? Ultimately, you should be gaining good experiences and good skills. That's what you want from your work experience. And, you have to evaluate whether that's going to happen. I know a lot of people, for example, want to work at a big business, and then also a startup environment, both maybe say within the first 10 years of their career. If those are your desires, does your family business at least fit one of those two desires? And I think, looking at how many years of work experience you have outside of your family business is important. For me, I would, if you can, try to have at least 4 years. That's just my personal opinion. Maybe that comes in, 2 jobs at 2 different companies, say for 2 years at a time, or, maybe it's at the same company but 2 different jobs because you got promoted. I would say there are a couple reasons I think the outside work experience is valuable. First is just having the perspective of what it's like to work in a corporate culture outside your family business. So especially if you're 22, right? If you start at 22 working at the family business, you'll never know or never have a comparison to what a different work environment is. And, I think the other thing is, about that is, in my opinion, everything you do, you should feel like you can always be able to transition to a non-family business environment. And I think, working in a non-family business environment for, say 4 years, you can build up recs or references who are non-family members who, and you can have those always in the bank. Should you, maybe after a couple of years of working in the family business, want to transition back into the, corporate world. I think just from recruiter standpoints or human resources standpoints, if your only work experience is at a, family business and your only recs are from, people related to you, it can be tough. I mean, I can't answer that. I'm not in, those positions, but I think evaluating, a candidate that's worked in non-family business and family business is an easier yes than someone who's just done family business. The other thing I would say is, in most cases, you can always go back to family business. On the flip side, it's harder once you've started in your family business to leave it. So once you've started working at family business, the employees have a reference point of you working there. And then if you leave, they may question the organization's financial stability, the succession plan. If the owners are older and, are in their 60s, and there's nobody in leadership in their, 30s, for the employees, they might get worried, right? And then, you might get into your family also questioning, why are you leaving? Are we not doing enough? And really it just might be, no, I just want to experience non-family business life. And so I think doing that first is always a better solution. And then the third thing is, even if you do family business long term, the experience that you get working in a different culture and seeing a different perspective can be really helpful. That's a perspective the management currently at your family business cannot give. And, sometimes when a family member has run a business for, 10, 20 years, it's harder for them to change their ways. And having someone bring in a new, diverse perspective can actually be something really good for the family business. The fourth thing I would say is realize your personal relationship with your family will never be the same. And I don't mean that in a good or bad way. I'm just saying once you add the business element to your interactions with family, that's something that you can never go back to just the personal. And, obviously, there might be conflicts in terms of vision, strategy, structure, succession plan. And obviously, the arguments can obviously seep in. But if, let's just say your father and your uncle own a business and they get into an argument about succession plan and things like that, that may affect you and your cousin, like your uncle's kids' relationship, even though you don't even want it to, because the two of them are feuding, but then they're complaining about, their brother or whatever, and then that seeps in. And like I said at the beginning, even if you don't get into extreme arguments, it really won't be the same in the sense of once your business colleagues or whatever, you just can't go back to just without it. You can't ever get that. A good example is, in your personal life, if your mom or dad tells you to do laundry, you can be like, I'll do it later. In your business life, if your mom is the CEO or whatever, and she tells you, I need you to give me this sales report of this month, sorting through this product type, you have to do it. There's no mom, I don't, and so that's a dynamic that people just don't understand, that it's no longer always a personal relationship. It's just a different element that's added. And obviously personal and business get mixed in these situations. In a family business environment, personal questions might come up. Obviously working in a corporate environment for someone else, obviously those types of questions about personal things usually won't be brought up. And even in family functions, like if you're meeting up with, doing a family get together, but there's a lot of people in leadership from the family business at their get together, they might bring in business. and you're just like, I just want to enjoy this holiday. Um, these are all things to think about in terms of understanding the family business dynamic. I probably should have said this earlier, but I've worked in my family business for 5 years, so that's where a lot of this knowledge comes from. The thing I would say is, if you do join, here are the things that I would work out prior. First is compensation and role. I would really be clear about these things ahead of time. Again, there can be resentment in terms of, my family's not paying me as much as I would make, working someone, like all that stuff. Get that done at the beginning. Let it be clear what your role is, things like that. What level of increase in salary you want a year or whatever. Be clear about structure. What is the succession plan theoretically? Are you receiving, a small percentage of ownership, maybe 5% every 4 years of commitment? Whatever it is. Or is it, no, you're not getting any ownership, you're going to have to wait for us to retire as your parents. And especially if there are multiple owners, and there's multiple family members involved, how does that work? And have an honest dialogue about, what would propel you to leave, right? If you're 22, you can say, like, hey, listen, I'm happy to try this out for 2 years, but I think I would, after that point, want to just pursue a different path, just to have the work experience. Saying those things up front allows for it to have less emotional effect later on. And then, within that, like strategic decisions, what is your voice? How big is your voice? How will that work in terms of implementing new strategies? I think just getting those out of the way. I mean, obviously things will evolve in real time through experience and stuff like that, but just having some level of dialogue on those topics, because those can get emotional in the moment, is important. So far I've kind of really had a very cautious tone, I would say, with regards. I do want to talk about the positives. The first amazing positive of joining family business is you can learn a lot, because you can be involved in multiple functions, which is not something you can really do in a more structured corporate environment. If you want to do business development for 6 months and then you want to go to, operations for the next 6 months, you could do that in family business. You probably can't do that in a big corporate environment. You probably, your role is going to be your role for the year. So in that way, you have a lot more flexibility in trying to learn about the business. So, even for me, like, I've literally gotten to work in these past 5 years in human resources, operations, marketing, sales, business development, quality management, client relations, like all these different things that it would have been hard to have worked in all those areas in a normal corporate environment. I would also say the beauty of working in like a private family business is you can be long-term focused, right? So a lot of public company decisions are based on short-term strategies because they get evaluated every 90 days. However, in a private company environment, you can make a long-term strategy to invest, say, in a technology that actually won't give you returns in 3 years. That's a lot harder to do in a public company environment. I think one of the interesting things about, um, as the world talks about wellness more and things like that, if you are able to join a family business and, the ownership allows you to grow and be a leader, you can create a great corporate culture, which is priceless. Having an environment where people love going to work, um, and, having an environment where whatever number of employees your family business has, whether it's 10, 100, 1,000, your family business is feeding that number of families, which is an incredible feeling to have. The other thing I would say is have perspective and gratefulness. One of the things when you've grown up in a family business environment, you're so used to the family business being there, but understand, like, a ton of people in the world don't have that option or don't have that fallback. So be grateful for the option. Um, and and I think just in general, um, you know, if which you should be, which most families should be, if the understanding is always to put the personal wellness of the individuals involved in this family business ahead of the business, you guys will be good. And I think if you have that perspective, you will definitely be in a good spot. So I know I said a lot. Hopefully some of those points resonated for the person that asked this question and for anybody else that tuned in thinking about possibly joining their family business. If you have any feedback, please leave it in the comments below. Whether it's other questions, follow-up questions, whether it's perspective that you have because you've worked in a family business or whatever it is, happy to continue the discussion. Thanks, guys.